We're on to our next speaker, which is Rachel Shields, who is the sales manager at Zoom Info. She's going to be talking about stories that have shaped her career as a female leader. And she's had a really interesting career. Welcome, Rachel.
Welcome.
She's a results-orientated sales leader with cross-functional experience across strategy, operations, digital, online media, business development, and marketing. She's developed a specialty around targeted planning and developing high-performance sales teams. And prior to Zoom Info, she had experience at companies like Trustpilot, Awin, OPP, and TripAdvisor. So the mic is yours, Rachel. Over to you.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much, James. So this is kind of a bit alien to me, and I always get nervous. I said that to James, and I want to be real and authentic. As much as I work in a kind of aggressive sales environment, it's never that easy doing public speaking post-COVID, where pre-COVID, used to stand up and do talks every week, stand-ups, presentations, where I got used to it. But I do have a little bit of imposter syndrome around that. So here we go. So I want to share some stories that I've experienced that have shaped my career as a female leader, especially in a sales environment, I think, is from my experience. Now, initially, in the early stages of my career, I primarily worked in a female-heavy industries, so places like recruitment, travel, education software. And my first kind of leadership role came when I was working for a software company, an education software company, when my daughter was younger. It really helped in working, obviously, like school hours. So it was great. At that company, I started as a salesperson. I got term time only. And I was just, I had a target quota. I suppose what happened was I was given an opportunity because of my previous background in recruitment to progress into a role that they just opened up to start recruiting and heading up their internal recruitment, which I'd never done before, actually. I'd always done external, in growing out the business. And he gave me that role, and which lasted a year. It was a great opportunity. And then he promoted me again. And I was in this position throughout my life where I'd never, ever been promoted into anything. I'd always worked in sales. I've always worked in recruitment. And suddenly I was getting this attention. I'd just separated from my husband at the time. I was feeling quite low. So it was a great confidence booster. And I kind of left there feeling, being promoted twice in my role. It gave me some confidence that I didn't actually realize I had. So those were my first steps into leadership. My next role in tech space was probably my most impactful experience as a leader, working for TripAdvisor. Basically, it was an acquisition that they'd just purchased. They needed a leader and growing out a team that didn't exist. So it was a whole new experience for me in a very kind of a bit like Airbnb when it first started out. So he recognized that my people skills and working in travel, working with different international people within sales as well, which is challenging. He saw something in me, which I didn't see in myself again, and pushed me to reach my full potential, even when I doubted myself, pushed me to do presentations off the cuff, because he knew if I had 2 days to think about it, I would never do it. And basically to create a go-to-market team from scratch and deliver results. And that was very alien to me at the time, but with support and faith in my ability, he basically, I was so determined to prove myself, which I did. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Those are kind of positives of my experience into leadership, which started out great. Roll on 5 years. I said my first position really in SaaS, which is even though I'd worked in tech, it was sort of things had changed. It was challenging. I chose that role. I went after that role. And it was a very male-dominated sales environment. My daughter had just gone to do her A-levels. I decided to commute to London. But I kind of knew that my leadership style would be valuable there. And I was surprised I actually got the job, because it was very aggressive sales, not what I'm used to. The thing is, as time, even though my VP at the time and sales director really embraced, probably to even out the testosterone in the office, I was the second female leader. First being when I first joined, I thought, great, I'll I've got somebody to support me. She didn't speak to me at all. But, it is, I think it was a difficult sort of transition. I faced many challenges, such as my voice not being heard. I realised my salary was a lot less than more green male counterparts that had just been promoted into leadership. I had to justify my existence in meetings. My voice was loud. I got told I was emotional at times if I pushed back on things, even though I'd come with 10 years experience. However, somebody who reached out to me was our US VP, and he recognised again something in me and offered me the opportunity to start a women in leadership group globally. To increase not only my brand, but to give me that space to feel like it's a project that's my own, and deliver on that. This turned out basically a success. I, involved many of I say many, there was a small amount of females that worked at that time, to sort of contribute and share ideas. And it turned out to be a success story over the 5-year period, which was also used as documentation of inclusive, as part of the IPO during COVID, which is fantastic, and I was quite proud of that. The challenges that this brought, though, at the time were sort of male counterparts felt that women were now getting special attention, special treatment. So, they thought that they'd have increased golf days and long lunches, which goes back to one of the comments I saw earlier about sports. The women also were now feeling empowered by some of the events that we had. They were being heard in meetings, and it had a sort of direct impact in hiring more women as we went out and advertised this throughout different channels like LinkedIn into positions and lowered attrition across the company. I suppose the main difference being all our female-led events were inclusive to all within the company, not just women, which also helped. And I suppose part of this, the irony is that even though I had to fight a lot harder from my own experience than my male colleagues, I have many stories. I want to keep it positive, but also explain, you can ask me questions at the end. I feel like every new career opportunity that I have faced has always been from a male leader who challenged my perspective and sort of promoted my career. The lessons I suppose that I've learned is these experiences, having just one person who believes in you can make a difference. Now, I actually challenged myself. I'm a very empathetic leader, which hasn't always gone down well in more aggressive sales environments. I've been told that doesn't work. Being transparent or understanding doesn't work. It's weak. I've always stuck to how I feel because I know it works. I love people. I love elevating people. It's not just women. But I have, just to give you an example, I had a lady that came in to interview, and she was interviewed by another manager and was told that she wasn't going to be very good at sales, so she should start as an SDR. I then also interviewed her, and I said, no, I'd like to give her the opportunity, which was knocked back. She joined as an SDR, and I said to our VP at the time, well, when she does move into an AE role, I would like to have her in my team. And that was the deal. She did progress into my team. She also had challenges where I, obviously was her champion. Some of them were pretty horrific. Because she was actually a very high performing salesperson. She had a doubt, she had imposter syndrome. I hope she felt I supported her. The irony is she still works for me today in a different company, so clearly she does. And she is by far, even on the days that she says she's not capable of doing her job, could probably be, a major leader in her field, but she just doesn't know it herself, and I always like to promote that. So I suppose, I strive to be respectful, empathetic leader, and continue to push through the glass ceiling within my role myself and help others along the way, and that's all, obviously you can ask for.
How do you feel now?
Still nervous. I had a little moment, but I'm real, It doesn't always go down well, but I'm very real.
We like it. Thanks for sharing. We'll get you back on the Q&A. I'm sure there's going to be some questions.